back for Arfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Arfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside. Decent.
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Obviously quickly finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On it by Paul Teller. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day. And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby.
Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. Comes up a shot.
Oh, what a goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarence deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everyone and welcome along to the latest instalment of the TurfCast Podcast. I nearly said full-time show then, but of course this isn't a full-time show. But I did say last week that despite the fact that there's no football, despite the fact that the weather's beautiful outside and me, Andrew and Gary would all rather be sat outside in the sun than doing this, we're still here for you because we promised that we would be. I'm sure a lot of you will still be sat outside, so I would suspect the views might not be as good today. I would have left it a little bit later, but you know me, you know what it's like. I will be working later on. But obviously not much to talk about at the minute. The news is pretty quiet. You're just seeing stuff in the usual places that you know is BS. So I've not even bothered sharing them on the TurfCast socials yet. Yeah, sorry, I'm just laughing at a comment already from GST because we said, me and Gary, right, wait till I bring Gary in, he's sunburnt as well. I'm not just throwing Gary under the bus there because I'm getting some grief. No, I am. But me and Gary are both sunburnt. I'm actually not that bad in person. I look worse now because of the exposure of this camera. It's awful, but my skin is awful, mate. I genuinely do burn like hell. So I think I have caught a bit of the sun, but it looks worse than it does here. Yeah. Dominic says, love the dedication, Joe. Thank you, mate. George says, hello, Joe. How are you? Good, thank you, mate. Ashley Barnes is in the chat. He says, just got a new tattoo on my arse. Love it. I will be asking the lads about that absolute legendary tattoo. Lee Greenwood says, a bonus live stream. Wasn't expecting this. Was starting to get withdrawal symptoms over no football. Don't worry, mate. We're going to still be doing stuff. Going to try and do it every Sunday. Obviously, there's going to be occasions. I mean, I have nothing booked yet, but there's going to be occasions where me or the lads are on holiday, so we might not be able to do something one particular week. But throughout the season, we're going to try and do it every single week. Mr. Biscuits is in the chat. He says, afternoon, everyone. Afternoon, mate. Andrew Turmo's in the chat. Hello, all. He says, Dominic's in the chat again. Steve Lover's in the chat. He says, Steve. And Martin Stevenson says, will Joe be on time? I think I was on time there, lads. I think I was on time there. Bilal Shakira, I apologise, mate, if I butchered that. He says, hello from Tunisia. Hello, mate, up the Hannibal and up the Tunisia. Keep your comments coming in. We're going to do something different today. Obviously, there's no football to talk about, so we're going to do kind of like an end-of-season review, but we're not looking back at the season in this show. We're going to do that next week, or we're going to try and do some things during the week as well. With stuff like that, but we're still going to be doing stuff. But this is the coveted and the prestigious TurfCast End of Season Awards. So we have quite a lot of categories for you guys to discuss. Don't give your answers yet. I want you to put the answers in the chat at the time. But we will be giving out the TurfCast Player of the Season, the TurfCast Young Player of the Season. Now, the Young Player of the Season is people who were 21 and under at the start of the season. So 21 and under at the start of the season. The most improved player. Now, there's no real sort of like laws on this one. If you want to choose someone that was god-awful last year and improved again this year, then you can. If you want to choose somebody that's improved as the season goes on, then again, you can. Best game of the season, that's self-explanatory. Most underrated player. So, you know, obviously a player that you think is really, really good that most people done, essentially. Goal of the season and best away end of the season. So, yes, there will be quite a few. So get your comments coming in. And I'm pleased to say that I am joined by Gary and I'm also joined by Andrew. How are we doing, lads?
Not bad. As you said. So...
Yeah, Gary's a bit more burnt than me, but I look worse on here. I look worse. So I'm just assuming that Gary's worse. How was the cricket today, says George? Yes, I put it on my Instagram. Did I? Oh, no, I put it on TurfCast as well, did I? Yeah, the cricket was great, mate. Love Lower House cricket. It's just over the road from me, so absolutely love it, up the house. And thoughts on the playoffs so far, lads, before we get into it, and hopefully we'll get a few more people in the stream. I think the views, like I said earlier, might be a little bit less there because everyone out enjoying themselves, unlike us three, because we are, for want of a better phrase, losers with no life. So we're sat here doing stuff. But Gary, I'll come to you. Your thoughts on the playoffs so far? Obviously, Sheffield United with a lead that's going to see them in the final. Bristol City aren't coming back from 3-0 down, and Sunderland with a 2-1 lead after the first leg. So what's your thoughts on the Championship playoffs, so far?
Yeah, well, that Sheffield game, I'm right looking forward to that, but that red card just completely ruined it, I think. That
it did ruin it, but I think it's the right decision, personally.
I don't know if it were a red card either, but...
I think it was.
It's like that double jeopardy rule as well, isn't it? So, when there's...
Yeah, but that double... I mean, I don't want to get bogged down into it, obviously, on this show, but that double jeopardy rule is for when you're making a genuine attempt to play the ball. I know the argument will be, well, he got his foot on the ball. He got his foot on the ball after he dragged him down, then stuck his foot on the ball. I don't think it. I think it's a red card for me all day. I think he's got it right, if I'm being honest with you. Dominic Hall says Sheffield United Sunderland final. As I've said for weeks, it should be great. That will be a good final. That will be the better final. To be fair, Sheffield United against any of the other two is going to be a great final. I think it's one of them two. As Blades obviously going through, and I wouldn't mind if one of the other two are there. Gary is quickly becoming a celebrity with the class he brings to TurfCast. I said that to you, didn't I, Gary? I said, you're so softly spoken. And you come across very, very well. Like, even when I bring the both into the chat, Andrew's like, all right, lads. And Gary's like, hello. I love it.
What I'm going to say about it, that Sheffield United game, that I turned it off after that red card because it was like pretty much over. And then the Coventry one, they've worked with that Dutch player called Van Wijk. He's got a weird name, and who passed it back and then let them score. So
yeah,
we'll have to see. That'll be the more interesting one. But I mean, there's been other red cards in other playoff games. There was one yesterday that like ruined it, and then there are another ones. So there's that much riding on the line.
I've not watched. The only ones I've watched are the Championship ones. I've not watched any of the others.
There were one in the Wimbledon game, I think. They were fighting or something, and then there were another one that were like not supposed to be a red for like I think it was like League 2 or something. So, but it's the thing with this much on the line, and then what will happen is when it gets to the final, they'll introduce VAR, and then you're just playing different rules. So that's where I don't really like it. You know, like in the FA Cup, for example, where you'll play a set of rules, you don't have VAR, then it goes to a certain ground. Oh, we'll use VAR now. No, they're like different rules, and you're playing in the game now, you know. So but we'll see. That. I hope Coventry go up, but we'll see what happens. It's probably unlikely, to be honest. It'll be a Sheffield United Sunderland final, but
no, not a big fan of the Coventry. I'll be honest with you. The way their fans are. Claret Blue 1882 says, "Whoa! Surprise live! What have I missed, mate? I said it on the show last week. We will continue to do lives. We're not taking 3 months off like other podcasts do. We're going to be doing these lives." More Sundays. I'm not going to commit now and say every Sunday. There will be Sundays where we aren't available because it's summer. We will probably at some point go on holiday. But we're going to be here pretty much all the time. And you've not missed much. But what I have said, mate, is this is the TurfCast end of season awards. So stay in, get involved. We will be bringing in your responses in the comments. Andrew, quickly come to you before we start off. The coveted and prestigious TurfCast Awards. I know the lads are watching this in Vegas with bated breath, waiting to see who wins the Player of the Year and the Young Player of the Year. Josh Brownhill is waiting. Steve sat there. They're all sat there in the room. They're getting ready for a night out, but they just thought they'd stop and watch TurfCast before they do. Lads, we will get onto that very, very soon. But Andrew, your thoughts on the playoffs so far, please, mate.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've not watched either of the games. I'll be honest with you. I'm
just sacked it off.
I honestly forgot it were on Thursday, and by the time I checked it, Sheffield United were already 3-0 up. So I thought, I'm not gonna bother with that one. And then Friday night, I just had something else to do. But yeah, I'm not surprised that Sheffield United are going through, especially quite quite emphatic win against Bristol. It would have been nice for Bristol City to get through, but I think 3-0 at half time in the tie, and they've got to play at Bramall Lane. It's pretty much nailed on that they're through. But like Gary said, the Sunderland Coventry one's probably a little bit more interesting. But again, I don't like either of them two teams. So to be honest, I don't want either of them.
You just don't like anybody coming up there. You just don't like anybody.
Pretty much, no. If they're not Burnley, I don't like them. But no, like I said, I'll try and watch the final when it's on. But to be honest,
I'm actually in work when the final's on, annoyingly. But I work in TV, so I should be able to find a feed.
Yeah, you should be all right. But yeah, once finals over with, it's summer. We're not in it, so I'm not over with us.
David Ashley says, season's over. It's the same show, but Joe's got his holiday shirt on. That's the difference. I do look a bit summery today. I actually had some sunglasses on me, and I thought I can't wear them. I have to take them off. I look like a rat belling. I forgot, when you just forget they're there. Dominic Hall says, let's get sharing the link, lads. Yeah, and if you are watching now on, no matter what platform you're watching on, we already have 10 likes on Facebook, so I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody. But if you're watching it on YouTube now, just quickly scroll down, hit the like button, and then, it really does help the algorithm. It really does help TurfCast sort of expand and grow. And another thing as well, you can become a TurfCast YouTube channel member. I have just posted the link now in the description. If you want to become a member, just click that link and you'll become a member, and you get benefits such as early release of certain shows and things like that. And there will be more benefits coming over the summer. And also, it's just a way to support your favourite Burnley creator, if I am, which hopefully I am. If I'm not, that's fair enough. Anyway, right, let's get into it. We have our Muzz Trucking says sell out, and he's also a member, so that doesn't make any sense, mate. But anyway, let's get into the awards. So we're going to start doing the TurfCast end of season awards, and we're going to start. We're not going to start in the way that you guys probably thought we were going to do it. We're going to do it the other way around. So we are going to start with the best away end of the season. Now, I don't know how many away games that you guys went to. I managed to get to quite a few. I will obviously put it out there right now. I didn't obviously go to them all. I did miss a few. I missed Millwall away. I missed Plymouth away. I missed Cardiff away. I missed Swansea away. What else were there? Plymouth, Tuesday night. Who's doing that? Only mentalists. So I can't sit here and give a view of every single away end. But my favourite away end this season, I'll go first on this one. My favourite away end this season was QPR. We won 5-0. We were already promoted, so the atmosphere was absolutely fantastic. Everybody was just relaxed. There were no nerves. Everyone was just relaxed. Everyone was chilled. Everyone was chatty. Everyone was talking to each other. And then the atmosphere, because of that, ended up being really, really good. So for me, the best away end of the season for me was QPR. Special mentions for Blackburn, obviously. Preston in the league was decent until sort of like the scoreline wasn't, and then we just all got a bit flat. Sheffield United away was very, very good as well, because it helped that they were absolutely diabolical. Sheffield United was silent in that game, and we outsung them for the full 90 minutes, and we got a very, very, very good result as well. Gary, I'll come to you next. What was your best away end of the season, please, mate?
Well, I've gone for... Well, I put two here because I didn't know if you wanted away end as in that came to Turf Moor or away end as in... So
fair enough,
anyway.
yeah. No, yeah.
But I did Watford for Burnley fans going to... What is it, Vicarage Road, I think?
Yeah.
So I went for that. That's, if I remember rightly, that's the one where Brownhill stood on the hoardings. For his
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. I got very good footage of that. Very good footage of that. That was a good away end, to be fair. The relief when we scored that second goal.
Yeah, exactly. And then they were shaky start for the first 30 minutes over, but they were still singing and stuff. That's what you want. So I went for that. But then, as in fans coming to Turf Moor, I went for Millwall, which might sound like recency bias, but they were just singing the entire match. I know it's last game of the season and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I didn't like some of the chants. One of them was just a weird noise. Just all
it's where they do the Mill. They just do that. My little boy hated it. He was sat there like that. Why do they keep doing that?
But they were in class, to be fair, and it's a long trip, and they did a nice bit for Zian because obviously he's leaving and all this kind of stuff. So shout out to them. They did decent. So I'll give you 2 answers there. Brucey Bones.
Fair enough. George says QPR. Dominic Hall says Blackburn, of course. Simon Harvey says QPR. Martin Stevenson says Watford apart from the obvious. So what's the obvious, mate? Is it Blackburn? Lee Greenwood says Leeds. That were a good one. Leeds were good. But for me, obviously personal stuff comes into it as well. But obviously I took my little boy. I think he was only 6 at that point. And it was just a bit much for him. And he ended up getting upset and we went downstairs for a bit. And I actually missed the goal. I missed the goal because I was downstairs because he were upset. And then they moved us to a quiet area. So, yeah, it was a good away end. And I imagine if I were there with my mates on the beers, I would have absolutely loved it. Best away end has to be QPR, says Paul, but Stoke and Rovers are also great. Phil says Watford. Blackburn away, says Scott. Jamie Cryer says, great content all season, Joe. Love listening to the clips, reviews and podcasts. Great season. Fingers crossed for next year. Cheers, Jamie. Hope you're well, mate. Lee Greenwood says, I really enjoyed Watford away. MKP Fave says QPR, everyone was buzzing. Yeah, that's my sort of thinking as well. Like we're all just in a really, really good mood. Watford was great. Coventry too, says Paul. Yes, Rovers, says Martin. Yes, Scott's obviously referring to what Gary was talking to then. Like a fire alarm with the Millwall fans. I was just behind you at Ellen Road, says Lee. Was that before I moved or after I moved, mate? Leo says Stoke away because that's the only game that Leo went on this season. So part-time fan of the chat there. Andrew, we'll come to you next, please, mate. What was which one are we doing? Best away end of the season?
You know, you've just thrown some shade at Leo, but I only went on one away game this season. And it was Preston away. So, yeah, it was decent away end. But I got confused with the question as well. So I've written Millwall as the best fans as well to come to turf.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I only went on one away game and it were Preston. It were a good day out until it just finished 0-0. But shout out to the pub I went to watch when we played Blackburn because that was really good because it was half Burnley fans, half Blackburn fans.
Really? Where were it?
St. Reed's Con Club, but my Mrs.'s brother-in-law is a Blackburn fan as well, so we said he could come sit with us. And as soon as, the final whistle went, he just stuck his things up and walked out. So that were a good away day, even though it was just down the road.
Right. So the best away end of the season, we've all gone for different things. So what I'm going to do is throw it over to the panel. I think a lot of people are saying QPR, to be fair, and I say QPR. So I'll tell you what, the best away end of the season, we'll go with QPR. Well done to QPR, the best away end of the season. However, because you guys got confused, I very quickly created a new category. Best away fans at Turf Moor. And you two have both gone for Millwall. I agree. I thought Millwall were good. I'm just quickly now trying to think of anybody else who came to the turf who was decent. Blackburn was silent as usual. Preston was silent as usual. Go on,
Luton fans seem to come to my head as being half decent up until they got the red card, and then after that they seem to go quiet. I'm the same as you, though. I can't really remember any others.
Yeah, I can only remember Millwall. Again, I've not thought about it because this wasn't an original category, but a lot of people in the chat are saying, quickly get your comments in. Let me know who you thought were the best fans at the turf this season. I think the best fans I've ever seen at the turf are Aberdeen. They were genuinely sensational when they came to the turf. Not Coventry, says Lee. I don't really remember Coventry being like... Leeds weren't great. Leeds normally come to the turf and are very, very good. It didn't help that game was god-awful, I'll be honest. Definitely Millwall, says Muzz. To be fair, when they scored, it was unreal limbs. Plymouth says... I'll tell you who were good. And Phil's just reminded me. Portsmouth. Portsmouth were sensational. They came. It's absolutely at the arse end of the country. It's miles away. It's like 7 hours on a coach. And they filled it out. And they were very, very, very good. So I'm going to throw a spanner in the works. And I'm going to say Portsmouth. Because I fully... And they weren't really playing for much then. Like Millwall, yes, it was the last day of the season. I appreciate they were very, very loud. Millwall were loud, says MKP. Sunderland, says Martin. Sunderland were noisy, says Paul. I think the majority, although Andrew does agree with me, but I think the majority, to be fair, are going for Millwall. So we'll just quickly bring that up. Congratulations. Millwall are the best away fans at Turf Moor this season. I'm just very quickly trying to find sort of like some noise, but I can't. There's no clapping noise on here. There's crowd noise.
Come on, Gary. Hey!
On a side note, because Carlisle have been relegated and Truro have gone up, that trip now takes 7.5 hours. So, Truro to go to Carlisle in the National League, 7.5 hours one way. So you got to get back as well. So.
Yeah, anyone who does that needs their head checking, especially if you don't stay over. Yeah. Big claps for Millwall, and I agree. I think Portsmouth deserve a lot of credit as well. I was very impressed with Portsmouth. Anyway, so I've got one that I didn't tell either of you two about, because you both said to me, you both were like, right, can you let me know early on what they are so I can think. So I'm like, right, these boys are coming prepared. So these boys are coming prepared. I normally just go off and just chat about it. I don't really think about it. So I'm going to bring one in now that none of you two have thought about. And Gary, I'm going to come to you first. The Mardiest fan base of the season. Get your comments in. Who was the Mardiest fan base? Obviously, apart from Burnley, because Burnley have had the Mards, especially when we were drawing 0-0 every week. But who was the Mardiest fan base this season? Gary, you're first, mate.
Well, it has to be Leeds in the nicest way possible.
Going for Leeds?
Because they always think that there's an agenda against them. Like, for example, Scott Parker and Brownhill won, Manager and Player of the Month. And then Leeds, instead of just like accepting it, what about Solomon? What about Farker? We won all these points. Just leave it, man. You've won the league. Like, what more do you want? So, and then they just complain about everything. I think that there's an agenda. I mean, there's a lot of Leeds fans that I like that are obviously my friends and stuff, but the general or the ones that always sing the loudest or speak the loudest are just crying about everything. So we'll have to
what
see
I've found about Leeds fans is on Twitter, there's a lot of knobs of Leeds fans on Twitter, but the ones on YouTube and stuff, and the ones you meet in person, are just as a sound. But that's Twitter for you, isn't it? That's what Twitter is. It's just a cesspit. So I think a lot. For me, I'm voting for Coventry. I think it has to be Coventry. The way that they acted after that win at the Ricoh Arena, they acted like we'd just gone there and just built a brick wall in front of the stand and in front of the goals and didn't deserve absolutely anything from it. Let's not forget that they got a goal given that were offside, and then they all cried on Twitter saying that the ref gave Burnley everything. They didn't want to kick 10 bells out of us. They're talking absolute bollocks. They were absolutely. And then one of them even approached me and my little boy and my dad, who's in his 60s, having a go at us after the match on the way to the car park. Bloody hell, can't believe you. I'm like, mate, I'm with my kid. But he weren't being aggressive. He was just like whinging about stuff. And I just couldn't get over how bad it was. So for me, it's Coventry. I will say, though, Gary, I do want to give a special mention to Leeds. And I know since I've started doing stuff with Connor, a few Leeds fans have actually come over and started watching it. I don't think there's any in the live at the minute. I might get a few comments in afterwards. But I've never seen a fan base rattled by winning the league. I don't know what it is. Since they've won the league, they've been insufferable. And it's not like they're going, "Way, we won the league." It's like, "Oh, bloody hell, manager of the month. I can't believe he's not got it. I can't believe he's got manager of the season." I put a tweet up. They fell for that random AI bullshit that Ramazani fell for. And I put a throwaway tweet up yesterday laughing at it. And they're like, "Hey, why are you so rattled over it? Why are you so rattled over it?" Like, I'm just taking the piss.
Yeah, Go on, Andrew, sorry.
I was just going to say they're only upset because they only beat Boring Burnley to the title on goal difference. That's the only reason they're upset, because 2 months ago they should have run away with the league. They'd won it 2 months ago, and now they've only won the league because of goal difference, and that's why they're so rattled. That's why they're so upset.
I don't know what it is. It's bizarre. But anyway, Andrew, who is your Mardiest fan base of the season, please, mate?
It's between three. It's between Leeds, Coventry, and them lot down the road, because they had a goal that was disallowed for offside, and they'd have got playoffs if it were for that.
In fairness,
it were one point. It was on.
I would be really.
It 100% should have stood. But they also had goals that shouldn't have stood. So, them lot down the road, they get a special mention because they're always like that anyway. But yeah, Coventry, they've been mardy and insufferable for the last 3 years now, since we got linked with Callum O'Hare.
When it happened 2 years ago, I was like, who are these? Like, why are they so rattled? And ever since then, I've just noticed that it's just a continuous, they are just a miserable set.
But I've noticed, like, it's not just us. Like, they try and have, I've noticed them, like, do it with
they were doing it the other day with Sunderland.
Yeah, and it's like, no offense, like, no disrespect to them. They are a decent team, Coventry, and, they've got themselves in playoffs, but they're not, I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but they're not really relevant at the moment to us. Like,
I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but they're not relevant.
No, but like to us, we play them twice a season and that's it. Like, they're not our rivals, they're not anything. But yeah, for some reason,
they're one of them teams that don't have a proper rival. Like, they kind of hate Leicester, they kind of hate Forest. They're one of them. Whereas any Leicester fan that I know hates Forest more than Coventry. I just think they're one of them teams that like Middlesbrough. That's why Middlesbrough did it all them years ago. I just think they're one of them fan bases that doesn't have a proper rivalry.
Yeah, so I'm going to say Coventry, but Leeds have just been insufferable since the end of the season.
Yeah, like I said, Leeds were fine until they won the league, and then they got annoyed at winning the league. It was so bizarre. But Steve Lover says Coventry by far. Claret 22 says Coventry. Dominic says Coventry. Leo says Coventry. Paul Holt, who I saw at Coventry. In fact, no, I saw it at Derby. Same thing. Says Coventry. Martin Stevenson says Covpot. Simon Harvey says Coventry, obviously. Lee Greenwood says definitely Coventry. I love the American in the chat. Doesn't know what Mardius means. Is that the same as annoying? Yes, mate, it is. George, so Dominic's telling George that it is. Sheffield United. Shout for Sheffield United, says Mr. Biscuits.
Yeah,
Rovers, says David Ashley. Sunderland. I'm surprised at that shout, MKP. Sunderland or Coventry. Sheffield United, says Muzz Trucking, still sulking about their 2 points. Andrew Bibby says Coventry by a mile. Dale Husband says Coventry. Paul Holt says hilarious that Cov had same ref versus Sunderland that sent Lampard off against us. I didn't know that, mate, but that is funny. Coventry all day, says Phil. Sheffield United are complete pricks, says Paul.
I should probably say I want to throw Sheffield United in that actually, because after the
I can't remember Sheffield United ever really being
only because after the Sheffield United game we went round to back to see if any of the players came out, and it were when Wilder were coming out and fans were coming out the cricket field end at the same, and obviously we were all singing "Cheer Up, Chrissy Wilder." Yeah, and this Sheffield United fan just turned around to us. I don't understand why your lot are calling Chris Wilder a wanker. He's the best manager in the Premier League, in the Championship. And me and my missus turned around and like, yeah, but he's not.
He's not, is he? He's nowhere near the best manager. The only club that Chris Wilder's a good manager at is Sheffield United, and even that he bottled it. His shit bottled it.
Just been promoted as well, though. When this woman tried to tell us it, and I was like, look, like he's not even in the top 3. She's like, yeah, well, and she was like, oh, enjoy yourself. I'm getting myself wound up with this, but she literally turned around and went, well, I hope you enjoy yourself, because next season all 3 teams are going to come straight back down, us, you, and Leeds. And I literally had to try and explain to her that they haven't been promoted yet. And she was like, yes, but we will be. I was like, but you haven't been yet. Like, this proper wound me up. So yeah, I might chuck Sheffield.
So Andrew's chucking the whole Sheffield United fan base in there because of one interaction with the salty woman. Yep, fair enough. I completely get it, mate. That's me all over. I'm such a bitter man, so I would do that. Hannibal Medbury fan club says Leeds, Coventry, no doubt, but Leeds are the worst fan base ever, says Bobby. Sunderland after Trafford's antics. We're calling Wilder a W word because he's a W word, says Mr. Biscuits. Leeds, says Phil. I think that's a pretty much damning victory though for Coventry City. So congratulations, Coventry City. You are officially the mardiest fan base of the season, as voted for by
PUSB
TurfCast panel.
PUSB.
Who were it who I was talking to recently?
That's the hashtag, it, PUSB.
Yeah, but who were it who I was talking to recently? They didn't realise it meant play up Sky Blues. They just thought it were a sound. They just thought everyone shouted "pusp." All Coventry fans went "pusp." It's like, no,
I didn't realise that's what it. I didn't realise
Did you
that's
not?
what it stood for.
It might have been
I knew
you.
I knew it must have been something stupid, but I didn't know that's what it stood for.
Yeah. Jimmy from Blades Ramble, he's delusional, says Harry. I didn't say that, Jimmy, if you're watching. He sounds Jimmy, but I call him delusional. He is a good bloke, says Dom. He is good, he's sound, but he will say that Sheffield United are better than Real Madrid in an argument just for the sake of it. Whereas I'm the opposite. When I do things like go on Green King and Betfred and all this, I just talk honest and opinionated. I give my opinion. So, yeah. Anyway, moving on. We've done best away fans. We've done best away end. We just created that randomly. The Mardy's fan base is done as well. So let's move up to the next one. Andrew, I'm going to come to you first on this because I don't think I've let you go first yet. The goal of the season. So it can be any goal in any competition, scored by any Burnley player, obviously, not an opposition player, but any Burnley goal this season. What is your Burnley goal of the season, please, Andrew?
Mine's a proper wildcard one because it wasn't
That's
even.
not like you, mate.
It wasn't even in the nominations for the actual official ones. But it's Brownhill versus Watford at home because the build-up play was absolutely fantastic. It was such a nice passing move, and then Brownhill killed it in with his left foot. After such a nice passing move, and I think that goal just sort of summed up our whole season. Obviously, we've scored some other screamers, so I'm going to chuck Benson's right foot in there as well because I didn't know Benson had a right foot.
Who was that against? Was it Luton?
No, Chef Wednesday.
Chef Wednesday.
But yeah, Brownhill's goal against Watford, it just summed up the whole season for me, so it has to be that for me.
Fair enough. That is a wild card, to be fair. Gary, I'll come to you next, mate. Go on, then. I'll let you take the floor. What is your goal of the season for this season, please, mate?
The Brownhill one, I put that as second, so it's not that much of a wild choice.
To be fair, I've not thought of that goal since.
We were like a proper team goal, Hannibal just plays it off and then he kills it like the top right hand corner. But I went for the obvious. Zion Fleming, Norwich, where he power drives it 40 yards out, and it doesn't just trickle in; it goes the top corner and everything. So I've gone for Big Zion, which I think he won the club award, didn't he, for that as well? So that was
it did.
Outrageous goal. So, I think we ended up winning 2-1 off that goal, if I remember rightly.
That was the goal that made it 1.
Yeah, 1-1. But we were playing dreadful until then, and then it just came out of nowhere.
That goal completely changed it, in my opinion. That goal completely changed the game. So yeah, 1 vote for Brownhill at Watford, 1 vote for Fleming at Norwich. I mean, Fleming at Norwich is an obvious one. We will quickly go to the floor. I will open it up to the floor. See what everyone else is saying. Fleming at Norwich, says Dom. Fleming at Norwich away, says Leo. Brownhill versus Watford at home. So, Andrew, you are probably right with that one. I don't think it is going to be that much of a wild card. Simon Harvey says Fleming, Norwich. Fleming free kick, ? Yes, forgot about that. Is that against Bristol City? We won that game 1-0, I think, didn't we? I can't remember. Yeah, so that was the winning goal. Amdouni barring in. Is that?
It's a good shout. First game
of the season. It was a good goal.
Was that against Luton then? I don't remember that one.
That were it were Cardiff first game.
It came on as a sub and then absolutely power-drived it in.
I remember him scoring, but I don't really remember the goal that much.
It didn't look like it went completely over the line, but it did. And then Gudmundsson scored one not long after, I think. From not too dissimilar, but that were a good goal, to be fair.
Yep, fair enough. Hannibal assisted by Cullen, says Muzz. Fleming screamer away at Norwich. Fleming free kick, says Andrew. A couple of votes for that now. Fleming at Norwich. Fleming at Norwich or Chef Wednesday at home. Obviously, another mention for that. You mentioned that, Andrew. Excuse me. Got to be Fleming at Norwich, hasn't it, says Harry. Luca at Leeds, says Paul. That's underrated, that goal. Just because of the magnitude. We don't win that game, and then obviously the league looks very, very different, I think. Fleming versus Norwich. Lots of great goals, but it has to be Fleming at Norwich, says Paul. Gary Murgatroyd says Fleming at Norwich. Absolute thunder bastard of a strike. Phil says Fleming at Watford. The save before it was the best I've seen live. Then seconds later, you know what? That header great header. It reminded me of Charlie Austin. Remember when Charlie Austin scored from edge of box with a header all them years ago? I can't remember who it were against. It might be Norwich, actually. I don't know. I'm probably talking rubbish.
Chef Wednesday.
But Chef, again, see, that's twice I've said I don't know who it were against Chef Wednesday. But such a good header. He's so good at that, is Fleming. So good at that. Anthony's P roll against Salty Coventry, says Bobby. Hannibal Mesbury fan club has surprisingly voted for a goal, the only goal that Hannibal scored this season. Love it, mate. I absolutely love it. You're not going to win, but that's fair enough. David Ashley says 100% agree. Brownlow versus Watford, the build up, the quick passing, and the finish. It was a big goal, the Zian goal, and a game changer. Badger says CJ's goal was special for the audacity. Hopefully, Bodger's not far away if Badger's here. MKP, that's for the 90s kids, that one. MKP Fave says Fleming at Norwich or the header at Bastards. You know what, mate? I wanted to vote for the header against Blackburn just because of who it's against, but I stopped myself and I haven't voted for that one. So I'm glad somebody's mentioned it because it's still a great header. It's a diving header. He peels off his man. It's a great ball in from Humphreys, I think it was. So fantastic. Really, really fantastic header. Coley Osho against Leeds says, what else? Zian bagged a belter at Sheffield United as well, to be fair, he did. Steve Gold, just because we love him. Yep, the tap-in against Cardiff. Absolutely fantastic. To be fair, CJ against Coventry was nice. And George is in the chat. He says, Steve, because people would riot when he scores, but there's so many, it's very hard to remember. Look, I don't want to sort of like just vote for the obvious, but I am going to vote for the obvious. It's Zian against Norwich for me. Such a great goal, and it would be a shame if he didn't win it. So I am going to vote for him. It's just, as I've said, it's an absolutely fantastic goal. There's other goals that are really, really good as well. I'm glad you've mentioned sort of like that Brownhill at Watford one, Andrew, because I'll be honest, I don't really remember it too well. But it sounds like it was a great goal. The Fleming one against Blackburn for me was fantastic. The Fleming one against Sheffield United as well was really, really good. Yeah, I think for me, I am going to vote for Zian Fleming against Norwich City because it was such a good goal. It was from a free kick as well. It wasn't direct. Somebody passed it to him. I think it was Cullen. He took a touch. He had far too much space. He should have been closed down, to be fair, but he wasn't, and he stuck it in the top bins. So the winner of the goal of the season for TurfCast, the prestigious TurfCast Awards, is Zian Fleming away at Norwich, who gets a fantastic goal with an absolute thunder bastard. So congratulations, Zian. You can now leave your hotel room in Vegas because you've won the award that you wanted. Yes, Andrew, love that. Love that. Right, next up is most underrated player. I'll go first on this one. And for me, it's Connor Roberts. This guy, and the reason why I've gone for Connor Roberts is last season, we got to the Premier League and then the management were just like, no, we don't want you. We're going to bin you off. We're going to send you out on loan to Leeds. Then he comes back, obviously, in the Championship, and he does what he did last time in the Championship. He drops 7 or 8 out of 10s every single week. He never has a stinker. He wasn't great against Millwall, admittedly, but we were already up, and I think he was drunk still. But he very, very rarely has a poor game. He's such a good fullback, and I'm already seeing people, and again, this isn't to start the debate in the comments, even though it will start. I'm already seeing people sort of like saying, right, now we're getting promoted, we need to get rid of Connor Roberts. We need a new right back. No, let's just keep Connor Roberts. And he's also an absolute lad as well. He's walking around in them stupid shades, doing hilarious stuff all the time with that stupid haircut, that stupid tash. All right, they're not stupid, to be fair. They're absolutely legendary. But he is a good fullback. He's one of the best fullbacks in the league. Literally, the only people I'd probably have over Connor Roberts at fullbacks are the likes of Firpo and Bogle. I think they're fantastic. But Connor Roberts isn't that far away from them. He is superb, and I think he is the most underrated player in the Burnley squad and has been the most underrated player in our squad this season. Gary, I'll come to you next, please, mate. Who is your most underrated player of the season?
Wait, it sounds like I'm copying. Let me try and cover the other answers. I got Roberts there too. You probably can't see it, but
I'd have believed you, mate. I would have believed you anyway.
Roberts too, what a player he is, and I think it's partly as well because where I sit on James Hargreaves, he's always running up and down, and you just see the like little things he does. So it's not only his like things on the ball and his defending and stuff. He just does like stuff that absolutely cracks me up. Where somebody will foul him and then he'll be like rolling around and then
he's hilarious, isn't he?
Stupid.
I don't know how he
stuff.
does it. I don't know if he's just constantly trying to be funny. Like I'm just miserable all the time, and he's just trying to be funny all the time.
Yeah, he's like a maverick in here. I think that's the best way to put him. So, but he's like, so we'll see what he's like next season because Premier League's different kettle of fish in it, as you know. But we won't get into that debate too much because it's about celebrating success. So I've gone for Connor Roberts as well. What a player he is. Maybe he only picked by Jaden Bogle this season, but
yeah,
what a player he is.
Yeah. Leo Caldecott says Loren. Simon Caddy says Perez. Interesting shout. Or Roberts says Leo. Dominic Hall says Josh Cullen. Roberts says Martin. Cullen says Muzz. Roberts is a great shout, says George. Cullen 100% the best midfielder in the championship. Lee Greenwood says Connor Roberts. First thing I said when you announced the categories earlier. Harry says outside our fan base or within our fan, either, mate. Just whoever you think is the most underrated. I don't care how you come up with it. Lee's wife said Cullen. Shout out to Miss Greenwood, Mrs. Greenwood, actually. I do apologise. Andrew Turmore says Cullen never gets the recognition he deserves. Bobby's taking the piss, I think. He says Mike Trezor. David Ashley says Cullen. He always goes under the radar. Anthony says Simon. Con in the Prem can do a job, I think. I agree as well, Riley. We'll see what happens next season. Connor, top player, says Wayne. Love Connor Roberts, legend, and he truly gets what it means. But I agree with that, and I'll be honest with you. Do you remember when he came to Burnley and Matthew Lowton was in the team ahead of him? And he was getting frustrated, and he had that weird moment on Instagram where he deleted all his Burnley pictures. I don't know what it is about footballers and deleting stuff off Instagram, but he deleted all his Burnley pictures off Instagram. He deleted the word Burnley out of his title. The only pictures he had left on Instagram was either him playing for Wales or Swansea. And then he pretended like his mates had hacked his Instagram and he's got his mates to send voice notes to Burnley fans and stuff. And I was like, this guy's a bellend. I don't like him at all. But since then, he's turned it around. It helps that he's playing. Obviously, it really does. It helps that he's playing. But I agree. He looks like a guy who knows what it means to play for this club. It probably helps that he comes from somewhere like Swansea, like another sort of like working class area whose, club means a lot to them. So he gets what it means to fans. He's obviously a Swansea lad. I get that. And that's his club. But he clearly understands what it means to play for Burnley. And I'm fully on board with Connor now. And I absolutely love him. Like back then, I wasn't a fan at all. But I absolutely love the guy now. David Ashley says it could be Fleming as well, given he's been stick all season for his position, mainly by me. Cullen's been class. Outside our fan base, I'd say Cullen. Within our fan base, I'd say Robert, says Harry. Can we also say James Trafford, because he had an abysmal season last year and turned it around? Maybe, mate. There's other awards maybe that could be relative for that. Paul Walker says, love Roberts, but he's not got the pace for the Premier League. Yes, agree, it's Roberts. Hannibal Measuring Fan Club says Lucas Perez. I thought you were going to vote for Hannibal again, mate, but well done on not doing it. Roberts, he just knows how much it means to us all. Connor always plays with the better with the tash. Egan Riley says Mr. Biscuits played virtually no games for us, being out on loan, then came in to have a season. He had not the recognition. I think he's had a lot of recognition, to be fair, mate. Despite voting Cullen, I'd be happy with Roberts too. So we'll come to you, Andrew, next, please, mate. What are your thoughts on the most underrated player of the season?
It's a clean sweep for the TurfCast lads because I've gone Connor Roberts as well. I'm with you. Like before the start of last season, I weren't his biggest fan. I'd probably say I didn't like him, to be honest. And there was just something about him that I never took to. I was not happy when he got shipped out, but okay when he got let go to Leeds last season.
Another thing as well, I didn't like some of the comments he said when he was on loan at Leeds.
Yeah, I thought he'd he's sort of not forced himself out, but he's come in this season. He's put a solid 7 out of 10 at least every single game. We talk about the amazing defensive record, and I'm sure that there'll be other players we talk about later who fall into that. But when we talk about this incredible defensive record, Steve, Egan Riley, Humphreys, Trafford, they all get the plaudits that they've got and well deserved. But Robert seems to be overshadowed, and people forget that he's part of that back five as well. And going forward, he's created a lot for us. He's scored a couple of goals. He helps in the attack. So, yeah, I feel like he's gone criminally underrated this season. Cullen, because I can see Muzzie's post comment. Yeah, Cullen, absolutely incredible. He's been absolutely fantastic.
I don't think Cullen is underrated, though. That's why I've not voted for Cullen. I don't think
feel
he's underrated at all. Everybody in Burnley knows that he's class. That's why Cullen's not even entered my mind, because I know he is the best midfielder in the Championship.
That's why he's not gone for me, because he is arguably one of the first names on the team sheet for me.
He is the first name on the team sheet.
Whenever he plays well, we play well. He's definitely not underrated by me, not underrated by any Burnley fans that I know of. Everyone knows how classy he is. So, yeah, he's underrated outside of our fan base, but in our fan base, it has to be Roberts.
Completely agree. So, the TurfCast most underrated player of the season goes to Connor Roberts. Well done, Connor. Absolutely fantastic season.
Tash.
I know. I just quickly Googled Connor Roberts Burnley. I actually Googled. The actual Google that I did was Connor Roberts Tash, and that came up.
He says the same as well, doesn't he? What's it? It's like about Sherbet Lemon or something. He always says something.
It's early in the season that it looks like looking at them seats, trying to work out where it is. Maybe Sheffield Wednesday. Where?
Is that Leeds away?
Potentially Leeds, because of the white shirt there, isn't there? It could be Leeds away, yeah. Could be.
Masengo in the background, isn't it?
Well, Leeds didn't play for us then. Leeds didn't play for us then. Masengo didn't play for us then. Is that Masengo?
It looks like Masengo. Could be Hannibal.
Could be. Anyway, we're digressing. Doesn't even look like him because he's not got his tash. Home shirt. Yeah, we didn't wear the home shirt at Leeds, so it's not Leeds. We wore the black shirt, as Martin says. We wore that black shirt, didn't we? Anyway, who cares? Next one is, and this one again is, I think, going to create quite a few sort of like different opinions. And I think it's Gary's turn to go first on this one. So, Gary, what was your best game of the season, please?
Well, I'll give you my second choice first because I put Luton, the first game of the season, because when I figured out that game, and it's going to sound stupid now, but I was like, oh, what a season it's going to be. It's been a good season anyway, but like, oh, Alderbury's going to absolutely rip it to shreds in the Championship. We got this player. So back then, I was like, oh my God, what a season we're going to have. And then it all got ripped to shreds, obviously. So that was my second one. But the one that I've gone for was Sheffield away. So
which Sheffield?
United. Beating them at their place for 2-0 is the one that I've gone for. Because if you work out the maths as well, that's contributed to us going up, of course, getting automatics. And not an easy place to go to. So 2-0 win over there. So you could go Leeds maybe. But I've gone for that. I think that were like a monumental game in the season. That it didn't really change things, but if you like working
that's exactly what I was going to say then. I feel like that win there, up until that win, I felt we were not poor, but kind of like just ticking along from that win. Yes, there's still 0-0 since then. There's still poor games since then before people go, oh, we're still 2-0 at Preston and Derby. I get that. But I feel like that was the moment where we as fans were like, we can fucking do this. We can do this. We are deservedly within this fight, and we will do very, very well in this season. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you said that.
The last thing I'll say as well is, even though Leeds is better, just because winning Leeds at Ellen Road, obviously miles better than maybe Bramall Lane, that was such a scruffy game. And last 20 minutes, absolutely horrible watching it. But that Sheffield United game, absolutely demolished them. It wasn't even close. It was like playing a League One team.
Yeah, we battered them. We battered them at Bramall Lane.
So that's what you want. But Leeds at home would maybe be a third option for me, but it's because it was just so scruffy at the end. And so
Leeds at home, you mean the 0-0 where nothing happened?
Oh, sorry, no, Leeds away.
Oh, Leeds away, sorry.
I'll read it a comment then whilst talking it. So, yeah, but we got a red card as well, if I remember rightly, so in that game.
Against who?
Leeds away one. Pretty sure we got
Humphreys with it on, weren't it?
Yeah, you're right. Humphreys got sent off. Yeah, that's right.
Got a good memory, me. But Yeah, it would normally be that, but that game, the last like 20, 30 minutes were just absolutely horrible. We were just like hoofing it, and it was just non-stop. Then obviously we won in the end, so it doesn't really matter. But watching it was just absolutely horrible. So I've gone for Sheffield United, comfortable 2-0 win.
Sheffield
against them
United
at their
away. Interesting that you've gone for that, because the majority of the comments are coming in, and they are saying Martin, Sheffield United at home. Dominic Hall, Sheffield United at home. George Rodriguez says Sheffield United or Millwall. I presume he means Sheffield United. Or Millwall because of Natasha Bedingfield. Agree says Badger, Sheffield United at home. So many says Paul, but Sheffield United at home. Andrew Bibby says Sheffield United at home. Mus Chucking says Sheffield United at home. Hannibal Medry fan club has voted for Hannibal Medry. No, he's voted for Sheffield United. I presume he means at home, just going off everybody else. Riley Platt says Sheffield United home or Millwall at home. Both recency bias, but thought atmosphere was class. And we played really, really well. Martin's changed his mind and says Sunderland at home. Don't know why. I mean, I know why, because of the Trafford stuff, but I think in terms of the game, personally, it's got to be a bit more than a couple of saves. Leeds away and Sheffield United at home, says Paul. Or maybe Leeds away, says Muzz. Sunderland at home. Trafford was outstanding, says Paul. Sheffield Wednesday at home, says Bobby, was brilliant. When Benson scored, the place erupted. Such a moment. We won 4-0 despite playing shite in the first half. How we won that match, mate. I know we won 4-0, but we should have been 2-3-0 down at half time. We were awful, and they missed some sitters. Simon Harvey says Sheffield United at home for the pure fact it won promotion. Bastards away, obvious shout, says Riley. Sheffield United away was possibly the turning point, says Lee. Blackburn at home, Blackburn away or Sheffield United at home, says Harry. Plymouth, 7 hours to get there, 5-0 at half time. Honourable shouts, Blades and Bastards away. I tell you what, Phil, if you went to that match, fair play. Fair play. That's the last thing I'm doing on a Wednesday night, whenever it was. Plymouth away again, though, said MKP. The quality of those goals was amazing. Brownell's volley for Fleming's goal could have been the goal of the season too. Sheffield United at home, says John Craven. Norwich at home, says Simon Woodhouse. Sheffield United. And Dominic Hall has donated £2 to the channel. Thank you, Dom. I really do appreciate that. Remember, if you want to become a member, you can. We do have, there was a link earlier in the chat. I'm not going to post it again if you want to find it, or you could just click. You could donate like Dom, or you could just click. So like there's a button underneath that says become a member now. And he also says, thanks for the content. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, Dom. Andrew, I'll come to you next, please, mate. Your game of the season, please.
It's another wild card, but you have read it out because Bobby put it in. Chef Wednesday, 4-0 at home. I know we didn't play the greatest in that first half. We could have gone in at half time 2 or 3-0 down. But Edwards showed the bit of class that we know he has, and the reason we signed him to get the first goal just before half time. Then he has another bit of class where he pulls the ball back and Brownhill scores. Then you've got Roberts. He scores a tap in. And then Benson scoring in the last minute with his right foot. A lad who, he's a cult hero. Yeah, you're right, Harry. He's a cult hero. He's a legend for what he did against Ewood, against them lot at Ewood. And then he just got dropped last season when company found a new shiny toy. And I think the relief that everyone felt in the ground when he scored that goal, I don't remember celebrating the goal as much as I celebrated Benson's. I came off that night on absolute cloud nine, absolutely made up. Remember, I'd had a shit day at work as well, so I take that into account. And it was just, absolutely fantastic. So for me, it has to be that game. But then, if you look at the magnitude of what it meant overall in the season, Sheffield United at home has to be in there as a conversation because that was just, the relief to get it over the line. And I don't think we played particularly fantastic, but we got the job done. And that was all that mattered. So, yeah, the two Sheffield teams at home, but I'm sticking with Sheffield Wednesday.
Fair enough. Gary, I forgot what you voted for already. What did you vote for?
I went for Sheffield United away, not at home. Unlike
you did.
So.
You're right. That's right. We are so used to beating Blackburn now that it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't mean as much because it does. It definitely does. but the outpouring of emotion and the relief when it happens just isn't the same anymore as what. Like, I remember when Danny Ings scored that goal all them years ago, and when that final whistle went, especially what happened the season before we'd done, the fat bastard being 15,000 yards offside and then celebrating like he'd won the World Cup. I remember being so anxious in them last 15, 20 minutes or whatever it was, waiting for that final whistle to go when Danny Ings scored the winner. The outpouring of relief and joy when that happened, it's just not the same anymore, in my opinion. Like, always, beating Blackburn is always good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not good. I loved beating him again this year. It's so good to do it every single time. But that is normally then, because of that, because we've won at Blackburn, that is normally then. Yes, we've won at Blackburn. That's my favourite game. This season, I think, is probably the first season where I will say it's not. The season we won the Championship, my favourite game that year was beating Blackburn 3-0 at home, or winning the league away at Ewood. But I probably will go with the 3-0 at home just because we just battered them, absolutely battered them. Whereas this year, it's probably the first year where we've beaten Blackburn at home, and I'm not going to vote for that and I'm not going to vote for that game. I'm going to vote for the Sheffield United game to be able to do it against them. Not that I've got anything against them, despite the narrative that Jimmy tries to spin. Not that I've got anything against them, but be able to do it to a team that's been there or thereabouts with us this season, and a team that we've battled it with over the last 3 seasons now. Obviously, at the top of the Championship 2 years ago, we come out on top and won the division there, finished second. At the bottom of the Premier League last season, we come out on top by finishing above them, but we both got relegated. But to be able to do it against them, and in a game where, like you said, Andrew, we probably weren't great. Like, I think Sheffield United probably were the better of the 2 teams for the majority of that match. But we just had the quality to turn it into a win. Excuse me. So be able to do it against them, I enjoyed it. I do still think they'll come up. So for me, I'm going to vote for Sheffield United at home because we got, obviously, the win against them. And I know you guys have voted for different things, so I'm not for 1 second sort of like saying my opinion means more, because obviously it doesn't. But just going off the majority of the comments, I think it's fair to say that the majority of the comments have said sort of like Sheffield United at home. So I'm going to put my neck on the line. I'm going to say the best game of the season awarded at the TurfCast Awards, the coveted and prestigious TurfCast Awards, is Sheffield United at home. Well done to that game. Congratulations. But yeah, I think it is a game that we all enjoyed, and a game that we will look back on in a few years' time, where we will. I've watched it back a couple of times since, and I love it, absolutely love it. Fair one, says Lee. Thanks, Lee. I'm glad I have your seal of approval, mate. Leeds, GST says Leeds for the bring back Layfield shout, and Hannibal giving it to the Leeds fans. Yes, was that you, mate? I do remember that. I was walking through the concourse at Leeds and someone shouted, bring back Layfield at me. I love Neil, but he did leave the WhatsApp group recently, so I'm a little bit disappointed with that. But I am going to reach out to him and try and talk to him. And hopefully Layfield will be back next season. But obviously, he's got a young daughter and stuff, and a very important job. So it's difficult. I think Layfield will fit in brilliantly with Gary and Andrew. But coming up next, the next award is the most improved player. Now, there are no rules as such for this. If you want to pick someone that was absolutely god-awful last season and then became really good this season, then feel free to do that. If you want to choose somebody that has grown over the course of the season, then again, feel free to do that. I am going to go for somebody who, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people will disagree with what I'm about to say, but won't necessarily disagree with the person I'm about to choose, but in my opinion, was very poor last season, and this season has been somebody who is in with a shout for the player of the season, and in my opinion, should have won the Championship player of the season. But at the same time, weirdly enough, he's not my vote for the Burnley player of the season, so make of that what you will. But it's James Trafford. I thought Trafford was poor last season. I know that the formation and the structure and the defence in front of him didn't help. I completely understand that. But there was a lot of moments last season where I thought he was poor. West Ham away, just for one on top of my head, one went through his hands. I know he was fouled against Luton, and I'm adamant he was fouled against Luton, but he should never have come for that one against Luton. He made mistakes last season that cost us, and ultimately I think dropping him in the end was the right decision. But he has proved me wrong this season as James Trafford. He has proved a lot of people wrong this season, James Trafford. He has been absolutely fantastic. It's gone to a point now where I never hated him, But I know he's blocked me on Instagram, and I mention it a lot. But I never hated him. I just felt like he probably wasn't good enough for the Premier League last season. And I always said, I feel like he probably should have gone out on loan last season. We should have brought him in, sent him out on loan to a championship club, and then he would have been our number one this season. I feel that that would have been the perfect path for him. Instead, he was hung out to dry by the previous manager in the Premier League. And this season, he's come on leaps and bounds to the point where he is now one of the first names on the team sheet, and a point where now, like, I'm worried about us if we lose him. I think we do lose him, and I'm then worried about us if we do lose him. I think he goes to Newcastle, but we'll see, obviously, what happens with that. So my vote for the most improved player of the season is James Trafford. Andrew, I'll come to you next on this one. Who is your vote for the most improved player of the season, please?
James Trafford. We said quite a lot on the show last year that he would be a good goalkeeper at some point in the future. I'm sure I said it. I'm sure you said it. I think Sam said it as well. But we said that he would be England's number one at some point in the future, and he'd go to the very top. But the Premier League just came too soon for him. He was thrown under the bus by company massively. And last season in the Prem, he looked like a little boy. Like, he looked like a rabbit in headlights a lot of the time. This season, he's coming for crosses. I'm confident when the other team is having a shot that he's going to save it. Those two penalties against Sunderland last season, I wouldn't have been confident in him saving either of them. This year, there was no question. I just feel like he's come on leaps and bounds, and I'm same as you. If we lose him this summer, which we're probably going to do, my concern is who do we replace him with? Whereas last year, I'd have driven him out myself. It's easy for who it has to be this year because of how poor he was last time. But yeah, if we're talking just over the course of this season, I feel like Egan Riley's come on leaps and bounds. I feel like Hannibal's come on leaps and bounds. But I think Perez has got so much better over the course of the season. I think, again, when Humphreys got injured, we all sort of not panicked, but worried who was going to play, who was, about Perez coming into play in left back, but he's come in and he's played really well. So, yeah. Over the course of the season, it's probably Perez, but Trafford, just because of how bad he was last year compared to this season.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I agree with that. If the rules for this award was just over the course of the season, for me, it would be Perez. But like I said, if you want to choose somebody that was awful last year, in your opinion, has come on better this year, then that's why I've chosen Trafford. Muzz says Perez. Martin says Perez. Dom says Hannibal. Bell Differ says Lucas Perez by far. CJ Egan Riley. Says Steve Lover. George says Trafford. Paul Walker says Trafford. Perez says Simon. Egan Riley says Mr. Biscuits. Egan Riley says Ginger. Dominic Hall says second half of the season, his sending off has been class. He must have talked about something else. Apologies. Jack McCallum says Perez, CJ, and Brownhill. Egan Riley says Andrew. Bell differs. John Payne says Trafford. Gary Murgatroyd says either Trafford or Season. I love it how he says either, they don't commit to an answer. Phil says this season started poorly, finished excellent. Perez, most improved Trafford. Can't argue with Trafford, says Dom, despite me saying Hannibal. Everyone will say Traff, but it's CJ Egan Riley, says David Ashley. He had an awful first game coming in for Warren, but wow, you know what? I spoke to somebody about that today at the cricket club. They said when he played against Sunderland, was it, that he was absolutely awful, and he was very worried about how would we do going forward. But he has ended up being one of the, one of the best players on the pitch. Paul Holt says Traff. Phil says Hannibal for me, and he's proper underrated. Everyone's hung up on stats, but I see a lad who completely changes the way we play when he's on the pitch. Muzz says has to be Trafford. Oh, sorry, no, he doesn't. He says, has Trafford improved that much? Most of his improvement has come from having a solid defence. But I did say that at the start, to be fair, mate. Bobby says Trafford, no contest, close. Egan Riley. We always knew Trafford had the ability, but Premier League season came too soon. This season has proven it. And Trafford, says John. 100% Trafford, says Simon Woodhouse. Trafford, but Perez deserves a shout, says Harry. Those saves versus Watford, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't think he makes them in the Prem. I know it's an easier save to make against a Championship striker, but I think he has improved, going back to Muzzle's comment, because them sort of saves, I don't think he was making them last season. Cast your mind back to that game against West Ham, where the one just went through his arms, and he's pulling off now absolute world-class saves against Watford. I think he has improved, Muzz. I really do. Rick Kendall says it was like he was played out of position almost. Again, we'll talk about something else. Yeah, it's difficult to keep up with the comments. Gary, your shout for most improved, please, mate.
Well, we're basing it on just this season alone. So if it were last season, then it would be Trafford. That's probably the easiest one. And then I think he has improved Trafford immensely because he's catching balls that he would have never caught last season. We just got pushed over. His ball distribution. If you remember last year in the Premier League, he'd have the ball at his feet, and everybody would be like, "Just kick it, get rid of it."
Yeah,
there's been none of that at all this season.
It was same with Muric year before, weren't it? I just don't think we'd got used to it by then. To be
fair.
But
then he messed up like a few times, but he's not done it anywhere near that. He's just more confident, and that obviously goes into the game, doesn't it? So he's obviously better at saving. I think he's catching more balls and all that kind of stuff. So he's come on leaps and bounds. If I'm going off last season, then now it will be Trafford. But I've just gone off this season, and I've gone for Perez. So from the first game when he played against Luton, he got 2 assists. You're like, okay, we've got Prime Maldini here. What's going on? So, and then he just fell off a cliff after that, and then Humphries took his place, and then he only got in the team because Humphries got injured, and then I were really concerned, thinking he'd be a liability. This is our season over with, right? Playoffs it is or whatever. But now I think he's just way more confident in his ability. Maybe it's like an environment thing where he's used to being around here, being with this team, because if you imagine you're him from Brazil and then you're in Spain, it's a completely different world, isn't it? Basically living in where it's just raining every day or whatever. So there's all them little things. Don't want to get in the weather because people come out and put it in the comments. And also that is Andrew's forte. But I'll go for Perez, which people might be shocked because I'll go for Perez after slating him so much. But I think it was justified back then because he was just liability. I think sometimes, but we'll see what happens next season as well. I still think Humphries should maybe start over him, but Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I agree with that. I agree with everything you said. He's come on leaps and bounds, and he's proven to be a very good asset to the squad. But at the same time, a full fit squad, defence, he isn't in it. A tale of two goalkeepers, Trafford and Muric. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? We were all gutted when we lost Muric. Well, a lot of us were. Trafford's ended up being, for me, the better of the two, and he's proven that. But I think it's fair to say the win is. Are we all in agreement that Trafford, in terms of the comments, won that one, or am I being biased again because I voted for Trafford?
Trafford's won it.
Yeah, there's been a few people in the comments saying it can't be Trafford. We knew he were good. We knew he would be good. I think that's the difference with Trafford. He had a good game at Brighton last year. I did say Harry put that in the comments. And I do remember that. He was fantastic at Brighton last year. But he did make a few mistakes last year, as I've already listed. And I don't think he makes them anymore. I think he is now ready for the Premier League. I know I've seen a few fans sort of saying, I'm worried about Trafford again next year if he stays. He might not stay. But I do feel like he is now ready for the Premier League. And I think even if Newcastle sign him, I think he can start for Newcastle as they're pushing for the Champions League. That's how impressed I've been with Trafford this season. So I am going to say that Burnley's most improved player this season in the coveted TurfCast prestigious awards, end of season awards, is James Trafford. Well done, James. Fantastic. I've already said it already. Kind of proved me wrong, but I did always at some point say, I know he will be good. I just don't think he's done that well this season. So a lot of people will, I think, be annoyed at that. Having said that, Martin saying he'll allow it. Thank you, Martin. I'm glad. That's all I need. All I need is Martin to allow it, and then that is me happy. Agreed, Joe, says Dom. Leave Muric and tip switch with Dara, says Burnley. I agree with that. It's quite funny, actually, that Dara kicked off saying, I want to be in the Premier League. Now look at him back in the Championship, only back in the Premier League. So yeah, I think James Trafford, I think it's fair with that one. Coming up next is, and Trafford could be in with a shout of this one, and it is the Young Player of the Season award. Now the rule is with this, everybody. They have to have been 21 at the start of the season, 21 or under at the start of the season. So these types of players are James Trafford, which I think he's going to win it. James Trafford, CJ Egan-Riley, he's in there. Hannibal, I think he's in there as well. And who else is there? Luca Koleosho. Not sure how many votes he'll get, but Luca Koleosho in there as well. But yeah, tell you what I'll do with this one. First, I am going to come to Andrew because I've done first. Did you do first last time, Andrew? Who did first last time? I can't remember.
I think you did with Traff, yeah.
Right, were it me? Right, Andrew, I'll let you go first. So who is your Young Player of the Season that was 21 or under at the start of the season, please, mate?
Trafford. For all the reasons I've just said, for the most improved player, I think he's been outstanding. I think he's been fantastic. How he didn't get nominated, how he didn't win Player of the Year, it just baffles me. I think he's been absolutely outstanding this season. Most clean sheets this season. Yeah, the defence has definitely helped. But he's done well in organising his defence in front of him. He's done well commanding his box. For all the reasons I just said, for the most improved, I think it has to be Trafford. But if anyone says Egan-Riley, I can't argue with that, because until I realised that Trafford was 21 at the start of the season as well, Egan-Riley would have been my answer.
Fair enough. Just going through the comments. Dominic Hall, CJ, Jack McCallum, CJ, Burnley Till I Die, CJ. Barres says Muzz. Did he play at Reading? I think that's pretty much it. Maybe it's Southampton as well. George says CJ. Andrew Turmore says CJ. Muzz has now changed it to CJ, to be fair. Martin says has to be CJ. Simon Harvey says CJ. Paul Holt says CJ. 100% Trafford, says Sam. You know what? I'm going to put it out there right now. I was going to vote. Well, I am voting for Trafford anyway. I'm still going to vote for Trafford, but I think we've all been outvoted already in the comments. I'm surprised. I thought Trafford would have this one in the bag. CJ has been brilliant. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to for 1 second say he doesn't deserve it. He's been absolutely fantastic. However, I'm surprised to see that there's so many people voting for CJ. Estev says Paul. Unfortunately, Paul, Estev started the season when he was 22. So Estev just misses out on this one. So feel free to send another vote in. Simon Woodhouse also says CJ. Martin Stevenson says, I would have given it to Ashley Barnes, but he misses out by around 4,000 days. You can probably stick another 4,000 on top of that one, mate. Gary, we'll come to you next, please, mate. Your Young Player of the Season, please.
Trafford for me. So, what an absolute monster of a player he is. Been ridiculous this year. But I also, with the award stuff, I knew he weren't going to win it because he would be in both awards. Because if he's of the age where he gets in both awards, you know, like Richard Corney won for League One, and he were in both awards, so he won both of them. The fact that Trafford weren't in both, even though he's the right age, how can he be in Player of the Season, but yet not in Young Player of the Season? Doesn't make sense. That's why I knew it were a proper fix. But yeah, I've gone for Trafford. Egan-Riley's a fair shout as well, to be fair, considering last season he were at Dundee, not even playing for us, probably weren't even going to play this season, and now he's like one of the.
He weren't for that injury. Yeah, I don't think
we're all desperate for him to sign his contract or whatever. So he's a good shout. But for Trafford, for me, I think if you was to take one of the players out, which is the way that I would view it, if you take Trafford out, that'd be a bigger miss than if you take CJ out. Is the logic I go down. So that's why I've gone for Trafford. But people say CJ, nothing against that. It's a good shout. It's torn between them two and the Bezzy mates, so they'll share the award.
I'm sure they won't mind. They're probably both now drinking a beer in Vegas somewhere.
They're waiting for the Big Dog award, I think. So I've just got a message from few of the players. They're waiting for the Big Dog award.
Yeah, we'll push on then. We'll push on. But In a weird scenario here, all three of the TurfCast panel have voted for James Trafford. But lads, I think we've been outvoted. I think we've all voted for Trafford. It's a clean sweep on the panel. But judging by the comments, the live comments, and if you're watching this later on and you think that's a disgrace, I'd have voted for Trafford. Well, you should have been on the live. So we're going to have to give it to CJ. The lads on the panel have been outvoted. So the TurfCast Young Player of the Season, despite the panel voting for Trafford, is CJ Egan Riley. Congratulations, Conrad. Well done, buddy. Well done. What a fantastic season as well. Yeah, he's been brilliant.
He has been fantastic. So they can't, there's no arguments for that.
Yeah, I agree. Sam Lane agrees with us. Then Muzz says, you know nothing. Thank you, Muzz, mate. It was nice meeting you at Sheffield Wednesday, but since then you've been nothing but a bully to me. Absolutely bully me every single week. Right, we're on to the big one. We are on to the big one, and we're on to now the final TurfCast award of the prestigious TurfCast Awards, the one that the players have all been waiting for. They're sat now in the Bellagio, whatever it's called, in Vegas. They're sat on the strip. They're sat next to that big fountain thing, all going, we need to win this award. And Steve's going, Sacre Bleu, I'm waiting for this award. We need to wait. It is, of course, the TurfCast Player of the Season. Now, indeed. I love that, Gary. Love that. The TurfCast Player of the Season. Who is it gonna be? Yes, Andrew, thank you for putting that in the private chat. I forgot about that. We will do that one afterwards. But this one is
Andrew's hamster. It's a good show.
Yeah. Who is your Player of the Season? I'm going to do this one first because it is the big award. So I'm going to do this one first. Hold on a second. I've just moved away from the camera a minute. Right. Who is going to win the coveted TurfCast Player of the Season award? Who wins this? Who wins it? Ignore that bit at the bottom where it says Dad of the Year or whatever it says, Best Ever Dad. This is the TurfCast Player of the Year trophy.
Now they've seen the trophy. Who wants it is the real question.
Who wants a trophy? Josh, the four, for me, it's going to be any of these four. James Trafford, fantastic. Broke records, proved a lot of people wrong. CJ Egan Riley, been superb, as you mentioned, on loan last season. Never really got a look in until this season, and that was because of injury. And it is coming now to be a point where we are all like, we need this man to stay. We need him to stay. Maxime Estev, the best defender in the championship. He could be in with a shout of the best defender the championship has ever seen, part of the best defence the championship has ever seen. And in my opinion, he is why we are so good. Him and, well, the defence is obviously part of it, but he is the rock in that defence. And Josh Brownhill scored, 18 goals?
18, yeah.
Yeah, 1 goal away from Joel Peru, who won the Golden Boot. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. Any you can vote for anybody. So get your comments coming in. You can vote for anybody. But for me, it's one of them four. And for me, I am going to give this award to Maxime Estev. It has to be Steve. It has to be Steve. He is superb. He is the best defender, in my opinion, that the championship has ever seen. He is the reason why we are so good. He sometimes helps out when CJ Egan Riley might be lacking a little bit, or when one of the fullbacks gets beaten. Steve is always there. He wins everything, whether it's on the floor or in the air. That's a poem. I've just said a poem. Maxime Estev is always there. He wins everything, whether it's in the floor or in the air. There's a chant in there somewhere, lads. Somebody please think of that. Gary, who is your player of the season, please, mate?
I have gone with Maxime Estev. And the reason I've gone for him, even though I was torn between him and Brownhill, the reason I've gone for Steve was, and it's the same logic between Trafford and Egan Riley, if you take Steve out of the team, I think he has more of an impact than Brownhill, which sounds ridiculous because he scored 18 goals.
I'd agree with that. No, I agree with that.
But there's like a player's free one-on-one. No, you're not. I'll get you. My name's Maxime Estev. I'll just run past you and get the ball off you. Or there'll be like a block that he just stops it. You know, he's absolutely outrageous. And I remember On one of the documentaries that they did for the the Sky Point series when we have Vincent Kompany, he said one of these players is going to be the £40 million player, and everyone was like, Luka Kolyosho. It's bloody Maxim Estev. He's like 22. I think eventually he'll end up playing for Barcelona or something like that. One of the absolute monstrous teams. So clip it up now, but in a few years, you'll see it. So I've gone for Maxim Estev, but anybody saying Brownhill, I am not against that at all. But I just think, in isolation, if you take him out, the team would be more detrimental if you took Steve out than you would Brownhill, which again I know sounds ridiculous because he scored 18 goals and he's had the best season of his life. But then that's my personal opinion. So shoot me in the comments if you want. But
Martin Stevenson says Brownhill. George says Estev. Dominic Hall says Brownhill. Steve says Simon Caddy. Andrews Hamster says Muzz. Simon Harvey says Cullen. Brownhill without a doubt, says John. The Weatherman, says Jack. Muzz says Andrews Hamster again. Sam Lane says Brownhill. Muzz says Andrews Hamster again. And then he says Andrews Hamster again. Brownhill, of course, says Andrew. Muzz says Andrews Hamster again. Muzz, come on, man. I think it's something else. Burnley till I die, says the skipper. Don't worry, Phil. Don't worry, Phil. That is another award that I may have forgotten. We are going to do that next. David Ashley says Steve. Badger says Brownhill. Can't ignore Brownhill's 18 goals and his leadership quality, says Dom. Paul Walker's changing it to Humphreys. Josh Brownhill says MKP. Without his amazing goal contribution, we would have really struggled this season. Gary says got to be Estev. Was way too good for this division to begin with. Brownhill, says Andrew. If it's not Steve, I'm cancelling my membership, says Muzz. It's always bullying me with this membership, is Muzz. I don't really get it. Lee Greenwood says, Esteve, not only has he been fantastic, but I think he's allowed CJ and Trafford to show how good they are too. Jordan Rushford says, the players chose Brownhill. That says all we need to know. Sod the players, mate. The TurfCast Coveted awards is more important. Rick Kendall says, I think Brownhill. Wife says Anthony, perhaps because she likes her. He liked her Facebook posts. That's not the real Anthony, mate. I don't want to ruin anything for you. I think I just have ruined it. Santa's also not real. Paul Walker says Maxime Estev. Joe's going to go against the people on this one. To be fair, the people are split, mate. So I'm waiting to see what Andrew says. If Andrew goes with a certain person, I'll go with that certain person. But the people are split. The people are split. Sam Lane says Brownhill or Steve. Brownhill says Simon. Estev says Hannibal Mejbury Fan Club. Martin Stevenson says I'll allow it, but it's Brownhill. Steve is Champions League material, says Lee. Brownhill, says Phil. Estev says John Angus fan, and Harry says Estev. We wouldn't have been anywhere near the top two without him. I agree with that. You could probably also say that about Brownhill. Look, I feel like the vote is split. I really do feel like the vote is split. And you know what I'm going to do now? Before I ask Andrew, I am going to very quickly start a poll on what's it called? YouTube. And whoever wins the vote on there wins the player of the season. Okay? Because I know that Brownhill, I know that Andrew is going to go with either Brownhill or Steve. Watch this, Andrew's going to go with I don't know, Fleming or something now. Yeah, Loren. Look, Harry's there. Andrew will go Loren to be different. Right. The vote is on the YouTube channel now. So go and vote. It's in the comments. If you're watching on something that isn't YouTube, quickly head over to YouTube and vote for it on there. We will have to change the vote. Andrew, who is your player of the season, please, mate?
My vote of the season goes to my hamster. No.
That's
probably because of Muzz. No, so you are right. It is between Steve and Brownhill. Completely agree with all the arguments. We wouldn't be anywhere near where we are with Steve without Steve. We won't be anywhere near where we are without Brownhill. Steve's been absolutely superb. Defensively, he's a unit. He's the best centre half that I've ever seen at Burnley, potentially. Potentially the best centre half that's ever played in the Championship. Definitely this season. He's just absolutely unreal and absolutely fantastic. Brownhill scored 18 goals this season from a central midfield position. I think as it only one less or one more than Nathan Teller ever scored for us, which we all know how much we love Nathan Teller. He's got the same numbers as Nathan Teller, you know. For a bloke who's meant to be past it, not good enough for the Championship, we've been told, not good enough for the Premier League. And he's just shown, you know, how to do it in the Championship. So I am stuck between those two. But we spoke a lot this season about how, yes, we are defensively solid. Yes, we're brilliant in defence, but we need to start scoring more goals. And without Josh Brownhill's 18 goals for us this season, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are. So, sorry, Martin, but I'm going Captain Fantastic, Josh Brownhill.
Memberships up for grabs if you vote Brownhill, says Martin Stevenson. So if you vote Brownhill, Martin Stevenson will pay for 10 TurfCast memberships. You heard it here first. Congratulations, Martin. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate your support. However, I have left it up to the poll. I think it's Estev. Andrew's gone for Brownhill to be different. Andrew's gone for Estev. Love it, Andrew, to be fair, says Dom. Brownhill all day, even though I love Steve. How's the vote doing? We are going to go. I'll tell you what, we'll leave it there for now. We will not give that vote away. I will leave that poll up on YouTube because it is currently 41% to 59%. So it is close. I won't reveal. What's the point of me not revealing which way when people are literally watching it on YouTube and can see it? It's 41% to Brownhill, 59% to Steve. So it's obviously very close. Yeah, it's obviously.
I thought it'd be the other way around when you were going to say it. But
did you? It's looking like Brownhill's going to win it. I'm going to be honest with you. So we'll leave that one for there. Does that make sense? We'll leave that one there. And because I forgot the signing of the season, because I'm an idiot, I didn't even create a graphic for it. So when Andrew was talking then, I very quickly made a graphic for it. So we will park the player of the season because everyone's so divided on it, and we will come back to it. We will discuss the signing of the season. So obviously somebody who was brought in the summer, not somebody who was brought in January, then made it permanent in the summer, like Steve. That doesn't count. Steve came in last season. So it's your likes of Anthony, it's your likes of Fleming, it's your likes of Hannibal, Humphreys. Who else is there? We brought in a lot of players. It's bad that I can't really remember them, but we signed a lot of players. I will let you two go first on this one. Andrew, who's your signing of the season, please, mate?
I've got two.
For God's sake, of course you have.
Because you know I like to be different. My first one, I got told the other week that I hated him for some reason, but I don't know why, is Ian Fleming. I
think you get told you get hated, everyone, to be fair. Maxime, Estev, not Estev, Marcus Edwards.
Yeah. Edwards was in for a shout, to be fair, because of the impact he's made since he's come in. But for me, Fleming, he was played out of position for the majority of the season. Earlier in the season, I spoke about how disappointed I was with his first touch, his passing. You know, even though he was played out of position, he wasn't doing the basics that I feel like a footballer should do. But I feel like he's come on leaps and bounds again. He could have been improved player, but I feel like he's come on leaps and bounds. He's scored a hell of a lot of goals, important goals for us as well. And like I said, playing out in the wrong position all season, you know, he's just been fantastic for me. So he's one of them. The other one, you're not going to like this, is Scott Parker.
Andrew, every time you've got to do something different. Where's Harry? Harry's going to be fuming. I bet Harry's just spat his beer out. I bet
that's an illegal vote, that one. So
that is scandalous.
Well, there you go.
Scandalous.
I knew I had to give you a player and someone just for that. But yeah, like Parker, he's come in. He's had the rug pulled out from under him. He's been sold a dream, rug pulled out from under him, and he's taken us back to the Prem, where, you know, he's had a lot of questions asked about him. I'm sure we'll speak more praise on him. as we go on. But Scott Parker for me has been the biggest signing we've made. Do want to make another shout out though to Anthony, because I think he's been incredible as well since he came in, and he would have been in for a shout for it if it wasn't for Fleming and Parker.
Fair enough. Gary, your vote, please, mate.
I've done an Andrew. I've gone for Bertie B. He's been a true gentleman. No, Bertie. He's been a true gentleman all year.
What about Bertie? He should be up there.
So there you go then.
Is that because he was dancing with Natasha Bedingfield?
He does the backwards worm. He does the normal worm. He's interacting with the kids. He's interacting with Pace Dog. He's doing everything. So Bertie B for me.
Dog.
But my actual vote is Mr. Marcus Edwards. And the reason I've gone for Marcus Edwards, even though his output in terms of statistics isn't great, because it's 1 goal, 2 assists.
There's more
maybe,
to football than stats, though, isn't there?
Well, exactly.
He's turned us round. That's
what I think. So it's allowed Anthony to play in his natural position, and he's come on leaps and bounds since then. It's allowed the team to be more attacking. Now there's 2 defenders are always marking Edwards now, which is probably why his goals and assist output isn't as strong, because he's got 2 players always marking him. But then it leaves a space elsewhere, and I don't think if we didn't sign Edwards, then we're probably not in the position that we are in now. Which again is credit to Scott Parker, because he's the one who and the recruitment team and all that kind of stuff. So. But I've gone for Marcus Edwards, and I also think it's very exciting next season, the player that you could get in the Premier League when he has a proper good pre-season, which I've said before. But he could be an absolute monster. Considering if right wing we've always struggled with. It's always been one of them positions where, we had Brun Larson, didn't we, for a little bit, and then Goodmanson. But after that, you're always putting square pegs in round holes when it with the right wing. We'll put Anthony there and then Foster can play on the left. It was just never going to work at that stage. And then they signed Edwards, and then it's no surprise that they've won, maybe drawn 1 and then won all the rest. So Edwards for me.
Fair enough. I wanted to give it Anthony. I love him. I think he could have been in with a shout for the most underrated as well. But I think recently, over the last 2 months, 3 months, because he's moved over to the left, a lot of people are starting to understand how good he actually is. And I think that is in large down to Marcus Edwards, and that is why I'm going to vote for Marcus Edwards. I completely agree. Without that signing in January, I don't think we are where we are now in the league. I just don't. As good as Anthony's been, as good as Fleming's been, as good as Hannibal's been, but funnily enough, they've all been much better in the second half of the season when we have Marcus Edwards, because he's the one. We get sent them pass maps and the average positions. Who's always the player that's the highest up the pitch? It's always Marcus Edwards. He's higher than the strikers 99% of the time, because he's the player that's completely turned this season around, in my opinion. And I agree. There's going to be some Facebook dads getting annoyed at this. He says that as a Facebook dad. I'm allowed to say that. There's going to be some Facebook dads getting annoyed at this because, like you said, he's only scored 1 goal. He's only got, 1 assist? Maybe 2? His output hasn't been great since he's come in, but the team has looked so much better since we've made that signing, because he drags us up the pitch. He gives us an output. He lets Anthony play on the left. He creates space with his movement. There's a lot more to football than just stats. And I think Edwards has been absolutely fantastic. However, what I will say is, for God's sake, Martin, you mentioned Natasha Bedingfield last week and a certain part of her anatomy. And I said I can't read that out. And same again, I am not going to read that out. I can't say whether I agree or disagree either, because I just can't. But for me, it's Marcus Edwards. Like Lee Greenwood says, he's a proper winger. He gets the ball in the box. He gets to the byline. For me, the Burnley signing of the season, and I think I can say this because a lot of the comments did say Edwards, is Marcus Edwards. Me and Gary are both voted for Marcus. Andrew, but a lot of people in the comments.
He might actually spell now as well, because he don't like spelling, does he? His pictures.
No, he don't. But the picture of him in Vegas.
Yeah. It just reminds me of that Ashley Cole one from all those years ago.
Where
they're all stuck together and then he's just on the end like.
On that Vegas trip as well, there's Leeds players are over there, and Wrexham. They're all in the same.
Yeah, so Jay will be there, won't he? If he's gone over, Wrexham are there.
But they've got that Ramazani with there, so I bet they're all meeting up with each other and all this kind of stuff. So
Yeah, maybe. I just want to say we are about to end the poll. So you've got 20 seconds, if you haven't already voted on the poll, to vote on the poll, whatever you want to say it. It is currently 47% to Josh Brownell for the player of the season. And it's so close. It is so close. So you have literally 20 seconds to go over to vote if you haven't already. You can't buy more votes, Martin, unfortunately. You cannot buy more votes. John Slattery says, I was disappointed with Edwards. He was still involved, mate, and still getting us high up the pitch. I agree the output wasn't great, but there's a bit more to it than that. Although Jaden Anthony's output weren't great as well, to be fair. I know he scored eventually in that last game. How many chances did he have? But again, it's just gone to 49-51. 10 seconds left. Right, let's go. Let's make a big thing out of this. So you got 10, 9. I'm going to end the vote at 0. What's after 9? 8, 7. Who does this go to? 6, 5, 4. There's 2% in it. 3, 2, 1. I'm ending the poll now. Brownell. I thought Brownell won it in the last second. He didn't. It's gone to 51%. That don't make any sense. 51% Brownell, 48%. Sorry, 51% Estev, 48% Brownell. It's obviously been rounded down. But that's so close. Maxime Estev wins the best play, not the best dad of the year, the best player of the year. Just. I demand a recap, says Martin. Fix, says Dom. Damn, that was close. Honestly, I thought it was gonna. As I pressed end poll, it looked like it moved. Hence the shout of "oh" and making me look very silly. But in the end, wow, that was so close. And I could only say that's what the people have voted for. There's nothing else I can do. The panel all voted for Steve. The people have voted for Steve. Everybody's voted for Steve. So congratulations to Maxime Estev. I can now 100% say that you are the TurfCast Podcast Player of the Season award in the coveted TurfCast Player of the Season end of awards. Congratulations to Maxime Estev.
Were there Russians involved? Yes, in a TurfCast vote, the Russians were involved. 100%.
The Russians were involved. Vladimir Putin has just sent me £10,000, Paul, to do that. So I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention that, please. Jordan Rushworth says, well done, everybody. Brownell is not signing the contract after this. I tell you what, mate, if Josh Brownell doesn't sign the contract because he didn't win the TurfCast Podcast Player of the Year award, then there's something seriously wrong with the man. Although I have been told, as I've said plenty of times, that I know that Josh Brownell and the boys are in Vegas now watching this with bated breath. So hopefully they can all now go and enjoy themselves. They can go to the Bellage. They can go to the fountains. They can go to the Strip. They can go to that big illuminous ball thing in Vegas and go and enjoy themselves, because we are going to end it here. So thank you, everybody, for watching the TurfCast Podcast Player of the Season awards. I've enjoyed it. It's a different kind of stream. No, there's no chance of the season award, David, because that would be silly. How about Leeds United or effing poo? I'm only saying that because Arthur's in the chat. Muzz says, Joe, you can buy an alarm clock with 10 grand gift from people. Maybe you start your streams online? You mean on time? There he goes. Try to spell properly, mate, next time when you're trying to give me a bit of grief. George says, thank you, Joe. You do a great job. Dominic Hall says, thank you, lads. Quality stream again. Unfortunately, boys, I've got to start work in about 5-10 minutes, so I do need to go. However, what I will say is, if you've joined the stream late, like quite a few people have said in the comments, then you can, of course, watch it back whenever you want, because as soon as I press end stream, it stays on YouTube and on Facebook for you to watch back at your leisure. And, of course, I will be putting this up as a podcast, so you can listen to it on your way to work, in the morning, or whatever it is you're doing tomorrow. But thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. A massive thank you to Gary and Andrew for coming on the show, and thank you to everybody who voted in the awards. And we will definitely be doing stuff next week. I don't know what it is yet. We'll find some stuff to do. We'll find some stuff to talk about. But thanks, everyone, for watching. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will see you next time.
Goodbye.